So today was a huge day in the WNBA world. Not just one, but two WNBA players were on separate podcasts, both calling the Indiana Fever legit contenders and giving major props to Caitlin Clark. Let's break down what went down and why this is getting so much attention. First up, Seattle Storm guard Lexie Brown didn't hold back on her Full Circle podcast. She put the Indiana Fever squarely in the championship contender column, saying, "Caitlin Clark can potentially be one of the best point guards to ever play in the WNBA." Brown highlighted how the Fever front office has built a well-balanced team around Clark, bringing in stars like Natasha and DeWanna, plus defensive standouts like Sophie Cunningham and Brianna Turner. According to Brown, this means Clark won't have to carry as much of the load and can focus even more on facilitating and elevating her teammates. Meanwhile, Minnesota Lynx guard Courtney Williams was on NBC's On Her Turf and echoed the sentiment. She pointed out that with the additions of Bonner and Howard, Indy is about to be stacked. Indy about to be looking good. Indy about to be a little scary. We ain't scared, but they're going to be a little scary for other people. Williams also noted how the Fever's offseason moves have made them a destination for top talent and a real threat to the league's established powers. What's really interesting is that both Brown and Williams veteran players with plenty of experience are not just hyping up Clark, but also recognizing the Fever's front office for building a team that can compete at the highest level. Brown even addressed the narrative that veterans hate on Clark, clarifying that many actually want to play with her because of her talent and the energy she brings to the league. All of this comes as the Caitlin Clark effect continues to boost not just the Fever, but the entire WNBA, drawing in new fans and raising expectations for what's possible in women's basketball. So if you're hearing more and more players and analysts calling the Fever contenders and saying Clark is the real deal, you're not alone. The buzz is real, and it's coming straight from those who know the game best. Let's get into the Lexie Brown podcast first.
Thoughts, Mariah, about anything that I just said?
Well, we've talked in length about the Indiana Fever and what they did in the offseason, but I think they obviously are taking winning and capitalizing off of this Caitlin Clark moment they have going very seriously.
So let's talk about Mariah Rose real quick, because there's some history there. For those who don't know, Mariah used to be huge on TikTok. And hey, I was on TikTok too. Not big or anything, I was just doing it for fun. But I had a little following during those few months I was really into it. Anyway, I really liked Mariah's content back then. Her channel was called Hoops for Hotties, and it was super fun. She'd break down sports, mix in some culture, and it was perfect for people who didn't follow every game, but still wanted to be part of the convo. I always loved her delivery, smart, funny, approachable. But over time, I started noticing a shift. Like, she started drifting into this space where it felt like she was kind of, I don't know, maybe not hating on Caitlin Clark exactly, but definitely circling that lane. And honestly, that's when I started to veer away from her content.
And I feel like this is exactly how you are. You're supposed to react to having a star like her. And they made the playoffs. She was Rookie of the Year. She had a great year. Like, this all makes sense. I'm excited for...
It's just, I don't know. She's saying she's excited, but she really doesn't sound excited. You know what I mean? Like, the words are there, but the energy's just not matching. And you can kind of pick up on this vibe. Like there's a little bit of a backhanded compliment going on. Now, I don't like labeling people like that. I really don't. I try to give folks the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes it just comes across that way, and you can't help but notice it.
I think that it's going to be really exciting. I'm not going to call them championship contenders or anything like that, but I think that it's going to be...
Like, you see what I mean, right? It's one of those things where, if you're really listening, you can just feel it.
You think that they're contenders?
Yes, I do. I'll tell you why.
Wait. Let's talk.
You know what? I just can't not love Lexie Brown. I know. There were a couple things she said that rubbed some people the wrong way, and I get that. But for me, I've watched a lot of interviews with her, and she's got a really sharp basketball mind. Like, let's not forget, she called out Caitlin Clark having multiple triple-doubles before any of them even happened. This was back in July on Gil's Arena, and at that point, no rookie in WNBA history had ever done that. But she said Caitlin would, and then boom, it actually happened. That's not luck, that's insight.
When I say championship contender, I mean, I would bet my own personal funds that they are going to win a championship. I guess contending means that they could, but like, I think a contender is like...
I will put you in there right now today. I think you will win.
Yes.
You think that?
I guess my contender means get to the finals. I'll tell you why. So I think that there was a lot of misconception about Caitlin Clark's overall game. I think that people got so caught up in her scoring that they didn't realize how good of a point guard she was in college. So I think...
That's what's crazy to me. Because, like, what was she? Second in assists her freshman year? And then every year after that, she was number 1, leading the entire women's NCAA in assists. That's not new. So I think the people acting surprised just weren't really paying attention. Like, if you actually followed her game, especially you Iowa fans out there, I guarantee a lot of y'all already knew this. This isn't a sudden thing. Caitlin's been doing this.
Once all this...
Well, not to interrupt you, but she didn't get the opportunity to show that as much in college because she wasn't surrounded by as much talent.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you can tell Mariah just didn't really watch Caitlin's game like that. Or at least didn't follow it closely. Saying she didn't have the opportunity to show that? Come on. She literally led the NCAA in assists. That was her game. The opportunity was there, and she took full advantage of it. So when people say stuff like that, it just kind of exposes that they weren't really paying attention.
She was making still, despite all that, was like insane. But like people were so caught up in the logo threes and the highs, the 23-point attempts per game, which absolutely I understand that. Like it was so much fun to watch, but I always said she could potentially be one of the best point guards to ever play in the WNBA.
That's a big statement. And you know what? She's been saying this for a while. And this is exactly why I can never discount Lexie Brown. Like, I really, really respect her basketball mind. She sees things that a lot of people miss, and she's not afraid to say it before it's popular. But anyway, let's keep it moving.
Everyone was like, shut up, Lexi. And I was like, all right. Led the league in assists last year as a rookie, which is incredible.
And you know, later on in the Courtney Williams podcast, she talks about how people just don't realize how hard that is to do as a rookie. And she's right. It's tough. And honestly, it's hard to keep talking about this without sounding like a total fangirl or like I'm just glazing nonstop. But you know what? I guess at this point I kinda am. I'm just genuinely blown away by this player, to be completely honest. But alright, let's move on.
After, they take the inventory of the season, you look at what you have, they said, we need to give her a more elite supporting cast and potentially not as many players that need to be spoon-fed buckets.
Wow. It sounds like she might be referring to Katie Lou. But honestly, I don't even want to single anyone out because it's not about disliking anybody. The bigger point here is absolutely true. The Indiana Fever organization recognized that they had something extraordinary on their hands. They realized this was a generational opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of situation, so they decided to go all in. The Fever didn't just tweak the roster. They overhauled the entire operation. That meant bringing in a new president, a new GM, a new head coach, basically a complete reset from the top down. Their focus was clear. Build everything around Caitlin Clark and give her the best possible environment to succeed. By surrounding Clark with the right pieces and leadership, the Fever have positioned themselves as a powerhouse contender. It's a bold move, but when you have a talent like Clark, You have to capitalize and set the stage for something special.
So that's no disrespect to anybody that was on her team last year. Like, obviously, they made the playoffs. They'd had a great season. But you have a Natasha Howard and a DeWanna Bonner that can just straight up go get their own bucket. And they're huge, okay? These are tall people, okay, guys? I think they're both like 6'3" and 6'4", right? So matchup nightmare. Sophie Cunningham has been playing out of position in Phoenix for like 3 years. So
just the fact that she knows Sophie Cunningham has been playing out of position, that alone says a lot. And it's something she's mentioned before too, which I've always respected. Like, that's not a casual fan take. That's someone who really watches the game and understands the nuances. It just shows that she's got a very basketball-minded approach, and I always appreciate that.
But she probably will get to go play the 3 again. She's a very underrated defender. And now you have very elite rim protection in Bree Turner. So now you go keep Aaliyah Boston out of foul trouble.
That's important because, you know, Aaliyah Boston does get into foul trouble. It happens. And when it does, you need someone who can step in, hold it down, and not let the whole flow fall apart. So yeah, that kind of depth really matters.
Which means she's going to be able to stay on the court. So, do I think that they are a contender? Yes, I do. Then you throw in Sid Colson, who is a very, 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 very solid backup point guard.
Noted she said very, very, very.
And she plays defense. So you can even throw her out there with Caitlin. And now Caitlin can chill on defense for the most part.
Not to mention, she's gonna bring us some great content creation. Like, let's be real, on and off the court, she's a whole vibe. That's just a bonus on top of what she brings as a player.
Because defending the 1 is not easy. And it's not because you can't stay in front of people. It's because all they do is get freaking high ball screens constantly. And it's hard to navigate those at times, especially when the screener is 6'5". So, yes, I do think they're a contender because they strategically gave Caitlin Clark a very, very, very well-balanced team where she won't have to carry as much as the load, I don't think. And she'll probably end up facilitating even more than last season. And then I didn't even mention Kelsey Mitchell. I can't believe I forgot to mention Kelsey Mitchell. All I do is talk about her constantly.
She does. She loves Kelsey Mitchell. Like, you can tell every time she talks about her. There's real respect there. It's not just for show.
I have my notes right here. I didn't even put Kelsey Mitchell's name on there. Like, I'm so sorry, Kelsey. She might be the most important returner. Like, yeah.
You make a really good point about defense and Caitlin being able to preserve herself on that side of the court, because that is really, really dangerous. Because 1, I don't think she's ever had that. Ever. And 2, that also helps protect her as far as staying healthy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that's something I don't even want to say it out loud. Honestly, I have nightmares about it. I won't say it, but yeah, I think we should all just keep a candle lit for that health. Always.
Exactly.
So,
have I convinced you? A little bit.
You make great points. We'll make great points, but we shall continue on.
She's definitely not convinced, she's just not a fan. And that's fine. But I'll say this. I'm a fan of Lexie Brown, and I've never wavered. I really hope she doesn't let any of the animosity that Mariah might have for the Fever, or for Fever fans or Caitlin Clark, rub off on her. Because I truly respect Lexie's basketball mind. She surprised me so many times with her takes and her insight. Honestly, like I wrote in my article, if I were betting, I'd put my money on whatever she says. Her track record speaks for itself. Moving on to Courtney Williams. I'm a huge fan of hers as well. It just so happens that these are 2 players I really admire. With Lexie, it's more about her analysis and the way she breaks things down. Most of her takes just hit different. Courtney, on the other hand, is just a ray of sunshine. She's always upbeat, always laughing, and brings such positive energy to the court. She's spunky, fun to watch, and you can't help but root for her. And this is what she had to say about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. She sees the Fever as a real threat, especially with all the pieces they've added around Clark. Courtney's perspective just adds to the excitement. And it's even sweeter knowing her dad is always in her corner, supporting her at every game. That kind of support is just heartwarming. And it's great to see these voices in the league giving their honest takes on what's happening in Indiana.
Out of the people we just talked about, who do you think would be the biggest threat out of those teams? Phoenix, Vegas, LA, Atlanta, New York.
Right. I think when you start talking about teams that can just be like, all right, bro, like they could be dangerous. The first team coming to my mind is Indiana. I'm not gonna lie, only because I feel like, bro, Natasha Howard, I feel is like super underrated for real. Like even when we talking right now, we ain't said Natasha Howard name. But
watching Natasha Howard's workout videos, her footwork is crazy. She is so smooth. And yeah, she's a vet, but I'm really hoping she hasn't lost that defensive edge, because last season with Dallas, she was still coming off that injury. Kind of like Chelsea Gray too. She was recovering, wasn't quite at her best. But man, watching her at Unrivaled. And I know that's not like a full 5v5 measure or anything, but still, she blew me away. Anyway, let's keep it going.
They be talking about Caitlin Clark overrated. That girl ain't overrated. She bringing the heat.
No.
She bringing that, boy, because she crossing them up, boy, then pulling up. You know what I mean?
Caitlin Clark a problem, bro.
Yeah, she that.
I just think about my rookie year, and I think about how I came into the league, and I'm like, bro, it was such a crazy like transition for me to just understand what it's like to play at the pro level. And it's like this girl coming in as a rookie and going like she broke the record for assists. I don't think people really understand like how crazy that is to do as a rookie, your first year doing this. But that's another episode. Shout out to Caitlin, bro.
Once
She's
again,
going crazy. She only gonna
we
get
talking
better.
about the free agency move right now. What about the new move? Then you just leave the draft, all the new blood.
If you're excited about the Fever in 2025, comment the word champion down below. Don't forget, like and subscribe for daily updates.